change. They want me to change, but I ain't changing. Nah, I remain.
And you are now tuned into another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio, brought to you by M3S3 Clothing. Men make moves and suckers stand still. And as always, on the mighty Nerd DJs Radio Network. And you already know, man, we only rock the legends around here. And today is absolutely no exception. We got the media consultant, communications guru, Christie Taylor, coming to the conversation. How are you doing, Queen?
I am doing amazing. Thank you so much. It's so good to be on this side of the microphone.
So how's life? How's your family?
Life is good. Actually, I just made a big move in my life. I've been in the Memphis area for years. Of course, my, native is Washington, D.C., and I've bounced around the country, but Memphis has really been home to me for a long time. But
Mm-hmm.
as of 2024, I made it to Hot Atlanta. So now I'm in the Atlanta area, getting nestled in and getting accustomed to this new area of the country.
Why the move?
I have always been involved in radio, TV, and film, and life has just afforded me the opportunity as I've now started my business, and we'll get into that, to start pursuing some of my creative opportunities. So, Atlanta is now Black Hollywood, and I just figured this would be a good time
Oh,
to,
I don't know. Whoa. I don't know about that. Detroit got something to say
ooh,
about that one. We ain't gonna do that.
something, and I must say that I enjoyed Detroit back in the day in the late 80s, early 90s. So yeah, we're not gonna fight about Detroit because Detroit has a special place in my heart as well.
So since we talking about that, hip hop farmer, is
Yes,
that what you down there filming?
actually, I just wrapped that up, and let me tell you, um, I actually for the last since I should say 2019. I started my own consultancy, Christie Taylor Consulting, and I assist clients with creative advisement, strategic planning, media and communications training and assessment. And one of my clients, Mr. Bunch, who retired from the USDA, had an amazing TV show idea that I helped him bring to life, helped put together the team. And we did last month, we
Hmm.
shot the pilot. And if the pilot, does what it does, we're hoping to take it to series.
Okay, what's it about?
It's about, if you remember back in the day, and this is going to pretty much date both of us with Green Acres. Remember Green
Oh
Acres?
yeah, oh yeah.
Just imagine a fish out of water story where you have a hip hop mogul who inherits an urban farm in the South, and he moves from New York to the South to take this farm over while still trying to grow his his music empire. So it just kind of takes on the journey of that particular young man and his girlfriend and his friends who are basically fish out of water in the South, trying to
Hmm.
learn how to do an urban farm and garden.
Okay, that does sound different and interesting. Why media? Like what was interesting about that?
Ooh, well, okay. Let me start off by saying that I was a very quiet child growing up in Washington, D.C. And when we moved south to West Tennessee, north of Memphis, deep in the rural, where my granddaddy had an outhouse and a well, my uncles had chickens. I just kind of was really much into myself. I was an avid reader, loved poetry, loved writing lyrics. And as my life has just grown, I learned how to communicate through singing. And
Hmm.
by the time I made it to college, I became a music major. But in college at Oral Roberts University, I flipped over to radio, TV, and film. So it's just been a journey of me learning how to become a master communicator, which I'm now committed to helping other people do the same.
Oral Roberts.
Yes.
That doesn't sound like the most diverse institution on the planet.
It isn't. It is more now than 1983 when I first went there straight out of high school. But at the same token, I was living north of Memphis, which of course is one of the blackest cities in the country. Yes, Detroit, it has officially passed that. But it has always been the blackest city in the state of Tennessee. So the
Mm.
rest of Tennessee is definitely a very, non-black area. So I've already been accustomed to that. And going to Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma, more specifically on the west side, on the north side, that's where Greenwood, and the story about that. But South Tulsa definitely was non-melanated.
Mm.
So, but I grew up in a very religious home, Baptist and Pentecostal, Church of God in Christ to be more specific. So it just was kind of like the normal thing because I had cousins who had attended the school, very much involved in the music ministry aspect of the school. Carlton Pearson has started a group called Souls of Fire, and there may be someone who actually is familiar with that legendary group that's been around for over 50 years. And I did have a chance when I attended the university as a music
Hmm.
director to also sing in the small group and tour with the choir as well.
Okay, so when you graduate, what was the first job?
I didn't, I have to tell my story in honesty. I didn't graduate. I did the Kanye West and was a college dropout. And I ran to Detroit because I was so mixed between of if I really wanted to be a classically trained singer or if I just wanted to do gospel. And that really is how I ended up leaving school prematurely and ended up in Detroit when Detroit still had a really vibrant gospel scene. Commission was there, the Winans were there, BB&CC were at PTL. I had made friends with Margaret Bell, who was a TV singer at ORU, Vanessa Bell Armstrong. I was in that whole circle.
Hmm.
John P. Key was first starting his choir. So I was just kind of restless and wanted to dive, straight into the music industry. But at the same token, I would just say in the sovereignty of God, in Detroit, I really did find my path back to radio. And decades later, I would finish my degree in drama, TV, and film performance. So
Well,
yeah, full circle, honey, full circle.
so what was it about radio?
Communication, really learning how to give voice to, I'll say like this, I've had chapters, and I know if you've lived long enough, you know about those chapters in
Oh
life.
Lord, I'm going through one now.
Okay, so I will say that because I initially wanted to be a singer, and honestly, I wanted to be a Broadway performer. I wanted Broadway, I wanted the light camera and the stage. But along my creative journey, I found that I didn't like rehearsing all night long. I didn't like the studio. I didn't like being on the road. And guess what? If you're going to be a recording artist, you got to be out here working that music.
Yeah.
Uh, so radio ended up being a safe space for me because where could I learn? Where could I talk and listen to music all day? Ding dong, radio. So
Man.
radio ended up really working with this introverted personality that I have learned how to be a little extrovert. I know how to turn it on and off. So radio really just became a really safe space for me because it's the theater of the mind, Broadway, but it also gave me the opportunity to still be very much engaged in the music industry, but from the radio side. So it just was a perfect situation for me.
Is radio dead now?
No, 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 no. Let me tell you this. I teach a class, okay, and I must say that and one of the things that I do as a media consultant and communication expert is I teach people how to put radio shows together,
Hmm.
even in the age of podcasting. And I actually developed a friend of mine who also used to be a TV and radio personality in Memphis. She started a company that I helped her brand as the Podcast Center. And one of the things I have the joy of doing is once a month I go to Memphis and I teach people who have always wanted to be on radio
Hmm.
how to merge podcasting and radio. And the question I ask is radio relevant? And they start nodding their heads that even when you have satellite radio, you have internet radio, you have podcasting, there is still a level of sophistication and brand awareness that only radio and traditional TV, radio, television also provides. So, and you plus still, and I always say this, if everything turns off, if the
Hmm.
internet goes out, you better have a CB radio. You need to
Now
you
that
need
I'm
to
with
have a
you on.
radio.
Yes,
You need to have a
absolutely.
radio. You need to have a radio. And I do have friends who are both podcasters, but I believe in teaching people how to be multi-platform. You're going to be on YouTube, which is TV 2.0. You want to have a podcast, it's radio 2.0. But you can also be on cable television. You can have a traditional radio show. You can have a traditional TV station, show. So I
Hmm.
just believe in, if you can get to satellite, do that too, because there's no one audience anymore. You have to kind of be multi-platform to reach a wider audience today.
I personally would prefer radio. Like I don't like the whole looking at me. I'm ugly. I don't want to look
Oh
at
no,
me.
you're not.
I
Oh
don't
my
want
god.
other people.
Now you know something. You probably remember this too. Back in the day, radio was notorious for having people with the most beautiful voices. And they would say, "Oh my God, you have a face for radio."
Exactly. That's me.
But you do not have a face for radio. You do
No.
not
Well,
have
I
a face for
appreciate
radio.
that.
But I will say that I've had many friends who were in television and they used to ask me, like, Christy, why don't you do TV? I just never wanted that. And I literally has taken, particularly the pan 2020, to really move me into more visual media. And I'm very resistant because I like being a voice. I really do. Now I think I'm pretty cute too. I think I have a
You
face.
are.
Thank you very much. I feel very flattered. But I will say that I really do love the microphone. I love, the traditional radio studio and the big boards and all like that. And haven't been in music, and I used to be in studios, and I used to love the console. So in radio, that also gave me the ability to run the board, have my microphone. Of course, now you got to have cameras in the studio for your YouTube and your replay. But I used to love the fact I could be in that room by myself and just me and the world.
Man.
Yeah, I love radio. I still love, and I actually co-manage two radio stations in Memphis, Tennessee, even though I'm living in Atlanta now. So two, Bumping 96.3 FM and Right On Radio
Hey,
87.7
if y'all
FM.
ever hire and let me know. Because
I
I
certainly
like
will.
when I started podcasting, it was on Blog Talk Radio.
Oh, now you talking. Now you talking my language right there. I actually, ooh wee.
Yeah.
When did Blog Talk come out?
Oh,
I
geez. I've
oh
been doing
my
this for a long time. Yeah.
I know because I jumped on there at myself because I really was intrigued by, when they were allowing us. Now, I've been on the internet as soon as they made it available. So, like 98, I definitely was online, when you still had the feedback rooms and all what Reddit is today and all like that. But I love the early 8 years of the podcast, or as they called it, audio blogging back in the day. Yeah,
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 it wasn't. I forget the. Yeah, you must
it
be
was
right.
audio blogging.
Yeah, I didn't know. I just stumbled upon Blog Talk, and I'm like, yo, people. I love to talk, and people have always, for whatever reason, felt comfortable talking to me about stuff.
Yes,
But just the radio gives you a certain anonymity where
yes.
people feel like they can say whatever they want to, and they can without feeling like I'm gonna go to work tomorrow and people are gonna be looking at me crazy.
And you have a great voice too. And the thing is I'm a
Oh, I
sucker
thank
for.
you.
Ooh, giving me that voice. Thank you. Thank you. Come on, give me the voice, okay? And it's so funny because most of my career was in Memphis, and
Mhm.
I have had an opportunity to live different places. But I still believe I sound like a Southerner. But so many times throughout my career, I would have people, and most of my career was in gospel radio and then
Mhm.
urban AC. But they were like, "You sounded like a white lady." and, and, and you really, and for those who live in and around Memphis, you know that that's like a major deal because for those who know, Memphis has been known for Maine and all the junk and all like that. So I do tend to put my consonants on the words and use my vowels. But yeah, but then they would say, "Oh, but you sound so sweet though."
Yeah, you definitely don't sound like Memphis.
Don't I don't? Oh
No,
wow. Oh wow.
no. I've had a couple of people from Memphis on here, and you can
Oh
tell they from Memphis.
well, I can.
Memphis and Baltimore probably
Yeah,
got the most
yeah,
prominent,
yeah.
and New York.
Now I will say this: I have bounced around, and let
Hmm.
me tell you, going back to my early years, straight out of Millington Central High School, which is north of Memphis, I did have some of my southern words that I used to love to say, and I'll never forget when I went to ORU. This is the early '80s, and I used to love fitna, fitna. Ooh, fitna was my word, baby. Fitna, and I had met some friends all around the country, and there was a couple of people from the East Coast. And and because I was starting to major in communication, and they called themselves helping me,
Hmm.
so they would correct me if I said things certain ways. And so we were about to go to the cafeteria, and I said, "I'm gonna go get something to eat." And they said, "You about to do what?" I said, "I'm fixing to go get something to eat." They were like they hollered because it's like I'm finna go, I'm finna go, I'm finna. That was my word. And girl, honey, child. Those were my two things that I used to love: fitna and girl, honey, child. So yeah, but I said I'm fixing to go, so I'm gonna make it proper and say fixing to go. But yeah, so I definitely have a couple of southern things that I love to say.
So, as a communications coach,
Hmm.
do you do the same thing for your clients? So you try to coach them out of their cultural norm, so to speak.
Well, actually, what I like to focus on is getting to the heart of a person's message. It's a part of public relations that, of course, most people like, what's your brand story? Storytelling is really big now when it comes to this. I like to help a client get to the core of who they are so that whatever you're communicating, whether it's on a website, social media, if you have a media interview, whether it's print, new media, traditional media, or if you're into public speaking, I like to help the person get to their core message based in their lived experiences as well as their expertise. So I don't try to strip away from them their personality or the way they speak, because Tabitha Brown is a wonderful example of someone who leaned into her regional dialect
Oh
and
my
has won
God.
the hearts of people. Now,
Yeah.
if you by chance come to me though, and you like mine, I can't say nothing but that. It's like then I might try to get you to go to a speech coach or something. I, Now, Jobs, I don't know why you have me clowning tonight, but
Oh, you gonna blame me?
I'm gonna blame you. I'm gonna blame you. Oftentimes, being a person who has lived in Memphis a long time, and because I do kind of, as they say, code switch and go between my radio voice and my more Memphian voice, I sometimes forget to turn it off. God forbid I come from the radio station and I go to a fast food restaurant. How many times have I? They're like, "What you saying? What you say? What you say? What you say?" And I was like, "What?" I said, "I would like to have a chick. Like I would like to have two hamburgers and a French fry and also a chocolate shake." Now I might be putting all of my confidence on there. Like, "What you say? What you say? Come to the window. Come to the window." They would,
Really?
yeah. And so one of I think it was my brother and another friend. They said, "You can't be talking proper to these people." So I promise to God that if I get a fast food person who like, what you say, no, I say I want a hamburger, French fries, and chocolate shake. When I tell you that they would understand me,
Mm.
and I was like, oh my God. Now I had a friend who was into linguistics, and of course that's a high level of speech
Right.
study. And I was like, that is just so. I probably, if I went to like something like you said to New York or Boston, I would have to learn
Yeah.
how to
Yeah.
flow into their colloquial language, because it's like they'd be like, "What you say?"
And the crazy part is that you naturally adapt to the lingo after so long.
That is
It's not
true.
you don't have to try.
That's
Because there are some places like Baltimore, the to and do and like that.
yeah.
It's crazy. Like I've been there before, and it's
I
Baltimore,
agree.
West Virginia has a whole different dialect of. I don't even know if it's English at this point, but
You said
it's
you
a
don't even
language.
know if it's English at this point.
If you go to certain parts of West Virginia, it's crazy. Like it's a whole nother language down there. You
But
know.
you know something? I love language. And oftentimes, going back to your point of if a client comes to me, now, if they come to me specifically and they like, I want to do radio, I want to be a talent. And I do try to teach them. And I'm going to give you a quick little tip. Now, I know you already know this, been there, done that. I would say every time you see signs when you're going down the street, and I used to tell young people who would come into the studio, and oftentimes when they would have interns, they would all out. We had I worked for Clear Channel at one point, and we had several radio stations under one roof. And for whatever reason, regardless of where the intern was actually working for what station, they would send them to my studio to train them. And I would encourage them, read the dictionary, aloud, and put the endings on your words. Also, if you're just going down the street and you like exit 66, like I would say, say it aloud and say it intentionally, putting your consonants on. And actually, that corrects a lot of things. And one thing, as a radio personality, early on, when I was still saying fitna and girl, honey, child, I would study I would actually listen to national TV personalities,
Mm-hmm.
because one thing I discovered is national TV personalities have to be able to be understood from
Yeah.
one end of the country to the
To the
other.
other. Yeah.
So I called it a broadcast sound. So I did, even as a radio personality, I would study TV personalities and try to get that national media sound. Yeah. So yeah,
How
but
long has Christie Taylor Consulting
ooh.
been in business?
The joy of it came in 2019 after a contract ended.
Mm-hmm.
My urban AC station, I had just come back from LA in 2014, got back into radio in 2015, and for 4 years, I was doing love songs at night. Got pushed to the midday between Steve Harvey and DL Hughley syndicated shows. But the contract had a renewal that they opted not to do, which honestly, I had already gotten out of radio like almost 10 years earlier
Mm-hmm.
and came back to Memphis after doing dabbling into the TV film space. So I was actually relieved. And I had a couple of months, just a couple of
Mm-hmm.
months to kind of sort out what I wanted to do next. And after having been in the industry for over 30 years, I was like asking a friend of mine who had a consulting business, and he was like, "You should do what you've already been doing." And I'm like, "What is that?" He said, "Giving away your free." He said, "Giving away information," because I find myself naturally teaching people and encouraging people. Like I said, when students would come, they would train with me. If someone had a question about how to navigate the industry, because I have been in the music industry, I've been in television, I've been in film, I've been in radio, podcasting. So like open up a business doing what you're already doing and put a price to it. So that's how I've started,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been really good. And I'm still growing. I'm in the first 5 years of it, and gratefully through a pandemic and all the things and major life changes, and now a move, I have been able to sustain a business and ready to take it to the next level. Yeah.
And if people want to get in contact with you and use your services, how they go about doing that?
Ooh, I love you today. Come on now. Now, they can go to my website. That's my home online, and it is www.christietaylorconsulting.com. That's CHRISTIETAYLOR consulting.com. And of course, you can also follow me on my social media as well, ChristieTaylorConsulting.com. But I must tell you, Jobs, that I've been on the internet so long that I have two accounts. I have a personal account, Christie Taylor Online, and that is actually a website URL that I've had since as soon as they let us on the internet. But as far as my business, you all can go to ChristieTaylorConsulting.com. It's a free discovery session that I actually will offer your viewers today if they want to just chat with me for 30 minutes to see how I can assist them in whatever they're doing, particularly if you are trying to go to the next level and have your messaging right. You want to learn how to properly prepare for your media interviews. Maybe you're trying to go to the next level in your business or in corporate, and you just want to have more confidence when you're communicating, and you want to communicate from your heart, from a passion place. I'm your girl. And also creative advisement. I've also helped a lot of people going back to Hip Hop Farmer. I helped that client over the last 2 years
Mm-hmm.
take their idea to actually having a finished pilot that's now in post production. So I'm your girl when it comes to telling those stories. Everybody has a story, and I can help you tell it very, very well.
Okay, person calls you up, they hire you. What's your first question for them?
Mm. I actually was looking at my discovery intake form today because I'm about to revamp it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things I want to know from them is, where are they now? And not just in what they do. And I actually had a lunch today, real talk,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a construction business, multiple businesses, but they still have a desire to do something creative, and they've had the money to self finance their own album. But I want to know, where are you right now, not just with your creative or professional pursuit, but everything that's going on in your life. Because
Mm-hmm.
I like to get people from where they are to where they really want to be. But to do that, you have to do it strategically with everything else on your plate. So I like to find out how much is on your plate and where are you really trying to go, and then I can help you roadmap it to get there. It may take, if you had nothing on your plate, yeah, you could probably reach your goals in 90 days. But if you married, got 5 kids, a job, and a business,
Man,
come on
listen.
now, you're gonna probably take about a year or two to get from where you go. And but enjoying the process and being very strategic to get there. If it's more storytelling driven, like, hey, I just want to prepare for a interview that's coming up, then I want to find out, number one, like if
Hmm.
like today, if someone was being, I was like, oh, you're going to be on the internet intellectually petty radio show. Okay, what have you learned about the host, and what is some of the things, have you looked at some of the previous interviews, which I had a chance to even check out something you were doing earlier, and just really put yourself in the headspace of what that particular show wants to come across. And
Hmm.
then, like for me, I'm having fun today. I'm a communication and media consultant. I enjoy telling great stories. I've enjoyed alphabets to words to sentences to writing plays and movies to songs to helping people, tell their story. So I'm a storyteller at heart. So what I'm going to always focus on is helping you to find out what your story is. So the first question is, what you got going on and where are you really trying to go? That's the part A and B.
So you said you checked it out earlier. What do you think?
It was fun. I was like, okay, okay. So, your engagement. Why are you laughing? You know, I like the fact that you have a very relaxed show, and many people that are in the online space, particularly, have
Hmm.
not really honed their interviewing skills, where it's not just asking a list of questions, but having a conversation.
Yeah.
And I remember early in my radio career, and you all have known these kind of radio personalities, they'll have a 3 to 5 minute interview with a guest, and they ask you the same five questions.
Yeah.
And to me, that was always boring because I know the average person already knows that. Let's just say Master P, no limit soldiers and all like that. But what you really want to find out about him is, what is he doing now? Why is he in town? And how can I connect with him? And what's his motivation for doing what he's doing now? Particularly
Hmm.
when you've been with people who have been successful for a long time, they've heard the questions 1,000 times,
1 million times. Yeah.
a million times. So what can you ask that's different, but that's still on message? And how does it link to what you're trying to communicate? Like your show is intellectually petty. Now, I low key want to know why your show is is called intellectually petty. And am I supposed to be getting petty? Like, what am I supposed to be doing?
It used to be called "My Skin Is My Sin,"
Oh,
and the problem with that for me was that it put me in such a small lane where
mm,
people saw that and they just thought one thing. And I'm not a one thing type of person. I wanted to be able to interview whoever I wanted to interview and talk about whatever I wanted to. And I was having a conversation one time and we were on air and I said that's intellectually petty and it stuck with me. Because that's the
yes.
type of person I am. I'm a
Okay.
petty nigga. I really am. I
Wait
just
a minute. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. I
I'm
was,
petty as
but
hell. Yeah.
what
I
makes, okay, now I'm trying not to. I'm gonna get back in the guest seat, but I'm so inquisitive. See, this is the kinds of things that I would teach a person. Like, I really want to know about my guest or whoever
hmm
I'm speaking with.
hmm
Like, even though I'm a quiet person, an introvert by nature, if I'm at a cocktail party where everybody's buzzing around, got the drinks and stuff, I'm typically gonna post up in a corner and observe everybody, and somebody's going to end up sitting beside me. And I used to have friends say, girl, how do you end up in the corner talking to people for 3 hours? Because I become very, very interested in who's attending, what they
Yeah.
got going on.
Yeah.
And and one thing that I will say that has fared well for me in my entertainment career, I oftentimes get drawn to the people who put the event on because everybody else is there to let off steam from their everyday life. And this other person,
I'm so in agreement with that.
okay, and I would end up meeting the person who put the whole thing on because they're exhausted, they tired, they don't sit down and drinking, and then they try to figure out what you doing sitting over here. And I'm like, oh, I'm having a good time, and find out everything. And then I would walk away with the key to the city almost, because I would have engaged the person
Exactly.
in a really heartfelt way without even knowing who they were. So I just kind of, and I'll share this. That is something that as a communication expert you want to do. Whether you're interviewing someone in real life just by nice heart to heart conversations, or if you're pursuing a career in
Hmm.
this, is really be interested in the other person. Like, sincerely interested.
Yeah. I just like listening to dope people.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I do too. I think that's the introvert part of me who was the reader, and I loved words and I loved the imagination. Like I said, Broadway was my truest ambition because I just wanted to perform and lose myself in other realities, and then having a degree in theater, and now having, all the things that I'm doing in the TV film space as a writer, moving. Oh, and I will say I'm about to direct my first short film, and a lot of friends say, "Girl, that's you should have been done that." But I'm finally to the point that they like, "Girl, you should have been checked that off. You don't help everybody else." And did you see how I said everybody else? See, I know how to everybody else. I done helped everybody else, and now I'm finally stepping into that role, which I'm super excited about, and it's going to be shooting in next month in Memphis. But I'll just say that being sincerely interested in other people will always increase your communication style, whether it's in a corporate environment where you're talking to your peer, to your colleague, to your subordinate, to your manager. If you sincerely want to know what somebody else is thinking and feeling, ask the great questions. Don't just, you know, yeah, yeah.
What's the biggest no? Don't do that shit in communications.
Ooh, okay. It's a thousand that rushed into my mind, but at the heart of communication is communicating.
Hmm.
No, and I'm gonna say it again. At the heart of communication is communicating. So, in order for you to act, the biggest no is to not communicate. And communication is both speaking and listening. Being an active listener, which does require you to be really interested in another person, so
Hmm.
that you can then speak in alignment with what they just said. So the biggest no is not listening, is not really communicating, but just wanting to hear yourself talk.
I think the biggest lesson for me has been guiding the conversation.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
some people talk too much,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you kind of got to politely shift the conversation for
That.
them
But let me tell you the worst
without
thing
being
ever,
rude.
without being rude. But let me tell you the worst experience I ever had in radio as an interviewer, because I was a traditional on-air personality, going between the music. I didn't have, I would do the public affairs show for talk, but
Hmm.
I was a coming up as Kirk Franklin or Shirley Caesar or Yolanda Adams. And their chance to win $10,000. Coming up after the break. I was that personality.
Hmm.
But when I had the opportunity to interview someone, the thing that I hated, and I mean hated, was the person who gave one word answers.
Oh my god, I hate that.
I think I'm a pretty sweet person. I really do think overall my nature is sweet, but I would want to throw something at them. It's like, why did you show up? Why
I've
did you
had that
show up?
happen. Yes, I've had that
It's
happen.
the worst. It is the worst experience ever. And it's like you could have just had your press secretary or publicist come in and do the interview, because that's when I really did start. But then God touched my soul and said they're the weakest link. And that is really the motivation that led me to want to start my agency, because when I started my career in the 1990s to when I ended it in the 2019,
Hmm.
over the span of 30 years, and you'll know this to be true, people who used to be interviewed back in the day, I'll say the Barry Gordy style, they had presence, they knew how to sit and stand and pronounce
Yeah,
their words and
yeah.
communicate and stay on topic. By the end of my career, people who were very successful, which was so frustrating for me,
Horrible.
horrible interviews. And they were like, okay, so you're in Memphis tonight. You're going to be at the Orpheum Theater or the FedEx Forum and da da da. Yes.
Or like I had one person, a very prominent rapper, so high
Oh my God.
I could smell the weed, and it was a horrible fucking interview. And I'm
Oh
dude,
my,
I wanted somebody like, bruh, wake up.
oh my God. Oh
I'm
my
not the
God.
most exciting person on the planet, but I'm not this boring, bruh. Like, like
I will say that because I was in gospel most of my career, I never had that. Um, thank God. Thank God. Not that somebody may not have been intoxicated, but they weren't that high
yeah.
where they were floating. But I did have, when I got to Urban AC, a war story. where a very prominent TV personality who had come to Memphis was packing out a very large stadium that they needed people to buy their tickets. Because that's the other thing, too. If
Mm,
you're doing radio, if you're doing interviews, media interviews, you're selling something if it's just yourself. You're
right.
bringing awareness to it, or you want someone to buy some tickets or something. So
Absolutely.
you are there to work. Your goal is to work the audience that you're on to get them to do something for you. Okay. And I teach my clients that. This young lady, Lord have mercy, I was vaguely familiar with her. She was from the area, not from Memphis, but from the region, had a very successful reality show. And when I tell you she came in there with an entourage and all the attitude to boot, like she was Donna Ross,
Oh Lord.
baby. And I would try to make people very like you. You're amazing at making your guests feel comfortable. So
Oh,
that's
thank you.
all. Yeah. So that was always my biggest thing, is to make them feel like this is my home. You're welcome into my space. For some people who have never been in a radio studio, they were, didn't even know that there was two or three microphones and all the contraption and equipment. So like, hey, it's just a house. Don't mind all the equipment. Just come have a seat and sit right there and just talk to me. This lady was so rude. And like I said, I
Oh.
try to be a sweet person, that even when I was in the interview, and I'm trying to establish a rapport, which I try to do prior to the mic opening. And she was already kind of very difficult. She was sending her errand people to go get this, go get that.
Oh
Oh my God, she was,
Lord.
and I already could tell from the staff, which is something else I
Mm-hmm.
teach clients. It's like you have to be nice from the moment you pull onto the lot until when you
Mm-hmm.
pull into from the parking attendant to the receptionist and everybody that you meet. Okay, she was being rude to everybody and rude to me. But when I asked her about her show, the lady asked me, "Did you want me to perform it right now?" I wanted to professionally end the interview. I said, I chuckled because that's one of my, no, you don't have to do that, but just give us a description of what the audience can expect tonight. But
Oh,
you
you
want them
so much better than me, because I'd have been like,
to,
and we're gonna go to a commercial right now. Get this motherfucker out of here. I'm sorry. Like you got to go.
it was to that level. And it was at that point, I was angry. And then I started pitying her and others like her. I was like, that's just what the true sense of the word of ignorance is. You are
Mm.
ignorant of the power of media, how it can make and break your career and business, and you're not utilizing the platform to its highest capability. And
She
then
not hearing. They wasn't hearing enough no's.
that I want to, okay, that is the truth. It used to be a privilege to be interviewed.
Man,
It was
listen.
something you worked for. It was something you had to be at a certain level to be even considered.
Exactly.
And now everybody who has a publicist can get booked. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and the thing is,
And
is
we
like,
want and we need the content, but understand the power of it. There's a reason why heads of state utilize and manipulate media to control the minds and the masses. And if you understand that heads of state, that elected officials, that presidents and kings and monarchs are using the same microphones and internet you're on, you would use it differently. Look,
now
you don't got me on my soapbox. You don't
I,
got me on my
I will say that interviewers have also done a poor job, and not just like you ain't got to investigate somebody mama and know about everything in their whole past,
you know.
but talking to people
Yeah,
like you give a shit
yeah.
goes a long way.
Yes.
And I've had the gooniest goons on the show, and the first thing I want to ask is about their kids,
Oh, oh wow.
because
Okay,
that makes you a person.
that's true. You
And
humanize me.
I have children myself. Me and you, we can identify with that.
Yeah, yeah,
But I'm looking at you like okay, I know you got this certain persona. How
yeah.
can I remove that for a little bit,
Yes,
and
you're a
then we can
master.
talk?
Yeah, you're a master at the game. Everybody, y'all check out Intellectually Petty Radio as a master class. As a
I don't
master
know about
class.
all that, but I'll take it from the expert.
Baby, let me tell you. And the very fact, look at he's sipping on me. Look, I done got him to the sip, baby. I done got him sipping. Come on now. I love it. Come on. You got the Malcolm X and the Bob Marley in the background. Come on. I see you.
Oh, always.
Always. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. But I really appreciate having this conversation, which is really what I opted to do in my radio career. And eventually, when I would do some TV interviews and podcasts, is to create conversations with other people. And to your point, find the human element that you can relate to. Because
Yeah.
I can relate to some people's experiences. Like when I would interview somebody who was an Olympic gold medalist, I ain't been running track. I ain't been, throwing javelins. I
Yeah,
don't,
but you failed before.
but I, come on. I have disciplined myself at something, failed, and tried again till I came to a level of it. And we all have that
Yeah.
underdog, rags to
Yeah.
riches, aspiration, if not inspiration. Even if you,
Absolutely.
even if you didn't do it, some big mama did it.
Yeah.
Uncle Jackson did it. Somebody, your school teacher, somebody in the hood who made good, somebody that you know could be that, and you can speak from that experience. Yeah.
Okay. And this is one question I ask everybody.
Oh Lord. Oh
You're,
Lord. Here we
you're,
go. This
you're
let
sitting
me
on a
hear this.
park bench. You're sitting on
Okay.
a park bench.
Okay. What
And
park is it though? It got in what park?
doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay.
God sits down next to you
Hmm.
and tells you you can ask him one question.
Why does God have to be a man? Oops. I just had to throw
I
that in there. I just got to
I
throw
don't
that
I
in
don't
there.
I don't think I ever said that he was a man. I said
You
God
say he
sit.
and
And
he.
I said, and he tells you, you could. Oh, I did. I said you could ask him.
No, but no,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
messing with you. I'm messing with
You
you. Go
could
ahead.
ask him or her
Right. Right.
one,
Right. Right.
one question.
Okay. Even though I do like God being a male, I really do that. I mean, that's just for the sake of for those out there. Why God got to be a
But that is my ego. My
yeah.
bad.
No, no, no. Okay, so if God's okay, I'm on a park bench,
Mm-hmm.
and I love parks. Parks is one of the greatest gifts that we ever created for society and civilization.
Absolutely.
So I'm on a park bench. That means I'm in my Zen mode. So God would definitely show up as He has. He has sat with me on many of park benches. But what would I ask God? Ooh, the first thing that came out of my spirit was, God, are we good? Are we?
Mm.
I would ask God, are we good?
I've never had anybody say that.
Yeah, yeah. Are we good? And I'm
I
gonna tell
haven't
you,
even thought of that.
yeah. If God came to me and sat physically on a bench with me, I'm like, are we good? Like, we eye to eye. Like, you good? You pleased with what I'm doing? Am I on point?
That's
Like,
a hell. That's a hell of a
yeah,
question right there.
yeah. I would.
Yeah. That one I won't forget.
Are we good? Yeah.
Yeah. That. Oh man. I've asked myself this question like every time I ask somebody that in my mind I generally I ask another question and I have
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
thought about it to myself like just am I ready?
Yeah.
Am if today is my day,
Yeah.
what happens when I get to the pearly gates?
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
I ain't perfect.
None of us are. None of us are perfect. And
But you don't know what the scales are like what's like is it 70-30? Is it 80
yeah.
20? Like
And I
you
think
get
and I think that's the reason why I've throughout my decades of this earth experience that I'm constantly checking in and to that point about God being all things at all times to all people is that my daily life I like to check in like God we good like am I on
mm,
point, am I in the right vein, am I in sync with you, am I in alignment with you, because there have been chapters of my life where I was off the track and God had to lovingly and sometimes through discipline put me back in center. I mean, even in good intentions, I could end up in the wrong place with the wrong people, the wrong opportunities, or he could have me in the room with the right people, at the right time, with the right, everything. And he'll
mm-hmm,
be like, no, like, and it's like, why? And it's like, but, and just to kind of give you, having grown up in a very Pentecostal Baptist, Southern, tradition of where church was extremely important, not just to your life, but to your culture
mm-hmm,
and to how you saw the world and the social environment. Once I hit my 20s and had done a lot of the very committed Christian lifestyle living stuff, and I had a serious identity crisis
Mm.
when I was living in Detroit.
Oh Lord.
Baby, let me tell you. I'm gonna tell you. I always tell people if I made it in Detroit, I can make it anywhere.
That's
Because
true.
that was the first city that, coming from living in outside of Memphis to Tulsa, there was a lot of familiar church environment, people who knew you, all that kind of stuff, and
Hmm.
and you still kind of were beholden. But Detroit was my first big city experience without any accountability from anybody that could check me.
Mm.
You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Detroit was my testing ground. It tested Christie Belinda Taylor. I'm put the middle name in there,
Oh
okay?
wow. You with the whole government, huh?
What you said, yes. And it was in Detroit that I found the strength of who I was and the weakest parts of who I was.
Mm.
And it was in Detroit that I met God, even though I was saved from 7 years old. But it was in Detroit that I met God, like I said, on the park benches of my life, where I would have to reset. And parks have been my salvation, being in nature, seeing people frolicking or whatever they were doing. It was in those places that I felt that I had to check in with God and check in with myself.
Mm.
And I found that God was not, while God was in the trees and the air and all the things, that God was also inside of me, and not from a religious perspective, which is what I was taught, have to be good behavior, being perfect, or try to be, but in the most flawed state of myself, trying to figure out life, trying to figure out myself, trying to figure out love and relationships, and failing. Honestly, I had dropped out of college, ran to Detroit, hanging around with singers and musicians, only to realize I didn't want to be an artist. You know what I'm saying? I was a serious identity. It's like, then what am I on the planet for? And in my proverbial park bench moments with God, God started showing me my truest self. And the closer I get to who she is, the more happy and fulfilling I am. And I had a quote where that taps us into what we call accountability, that I had to take on growing up as a church girl. Like, if I do good, it's my do good. But if I do bad, it's my do bad. But whatever it is, it's mine.
Mm.
And when I tapped into that level of accountability and spirituality, and God also began to teach me, during some very dark times, that I could live my life in full expression, or that I had passed from death to life. I'll just say it like that. I had passed from
Mm.
death to life, where death was don't even attempt true happiness, to life in full expression. And when I tell you, and that another life lesson I learned in Detroit, that's why I have Detroit has a very special place in my heart, because I also learned in Detroit that the greatest sin that you can ever commit is to not live your own life.
I am 52 years old and just now learning that.
You hear me?
I am
Yes.
so serious. And
Yes.
like I had a young lady on here, Randy Rosario, a couple
Hmm.
months ago, and she said something to me that I had never heard before. She said, "The devil gives out blessings too."
Woo! Yes, he does.
Fucked my head up, and I haven't
Yes.
forgotten that since.
Yes, he does. And oftentimes they're shinier than God.
And that's exactly what her
Yeah.
point was.
Yeah. They come in this. They can come. Woo! And when you understand, see, it takes to walk through the fires of your own hell to forge the true essence of yourself. Oh my God. But when you die to your own misbeliefs about you,
Mm.
is when you can learn to believe in God. Because that's what God taught me. He said that was one of the things, because I was really, 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 really sin conscious. I have to say it like that. Growing up in Pentecostal churches or in environments where everything is a sin.
Yeah.
Everything is a sin. So I was very sin conscious, and God started teaching me through my own lived experiences that the greatest sin that you can ever commit is not live your own life. So if you're around here letting other people make decisions for you, or reflecting, or letting other people put on you their dictates, and then you're thinking it's me, he said, you did that. You missed the mark. And so when he started showing me that I had to be accountable for the decisions, the thoughts, the words, the feelings, and the emotions,
Yeah.
I was angry about it at first. But there's a freedom when you go through the depths of your own darkness. I think they call it the seat of the soul, and the the shadow self and the shadow work. All the things that mean when you have to meet your full self, the
Yeah.
good, the bad, and the ugly,
Yeah.
and the beautiful, that you can fall in love with you. And then that gives you the freedom to fall in love with others.
You know, the crazy part is that I was telling somebody not too long ago, like, as a man, you spend your life doing for other people. You are defined by what you do,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not who you are.
That is true.
Your
That is
kids,
true.
what do you provide for
Yeah.
your kids, your
Right.
spouse, your significant other, your
Yeah.
mama, the whole, and then you get to a point where they're grown
Yeah.
and they don't need you anymore, and then
What?
you
Yeah.
lost.
You
And
know.
you have to, that's when, that what you were just saying, that's
Yeah.
when most men, and people think it's a midlife crisis. It's not a midlife crisis.
It's an
It's that
identity crisis.
we
It's
didn't know who we were.
it's an identity crisis, and for me, I will say that that was Detroit. My Detroit years, and that's literally I said my Detroit years was
Hmm.
when I had the most stark identity crisis. But fast forward to when my radio career ended twice. The first time, even though I willfully left each time, I had been identified, as you say, with a man, to his children, his spouse, and to the community. When you have been seen one way for so long that your identity is tied to your actions
Oh Lord.
and your status, and you lose that, that is why people lose their minds, because their minds were actually linked
Yeah.
to that identity, as opposed to who am I apart from this.
Yeah.
And that's when I say on the proverbial park bench of God, I say, are we good? Because the God in me is checking on me. And
Mm.
I want to check into that divine spark of who I am, apart from my ability to sing, my ability to write songs, my ability to do things that are entertaining to others, that other people can applaud and say, oh, you fabulous, all that. Apart from what I do and my talents, who am I? And then that gets into one of the most powerful things that I learned out of my journey is the power of I am. So my life that I rebuilt from my 20s over the last 30 years was literally linked to the power of the I am and the I am now. Like so much of my life, when God helped me recreate me
Hmm.
from those Detroit years where I literally allowed myself to be melted, like totally like destroyed. All the rose, well, there was a couple of rose tinted glasses I still had that I had a couple more people had to had to help me break. But I'm just saying. But in my 20s into my early 30s, really was a time that I had to rebuild my life through my spoken word, which is why I'm also grateful that the quiet little girl who was living in DC, sucking her two fingers, back in the day when you sucked that thumb and your fingers and your knuckle. Yeah, back in the day, reading a book. I don't get that I learned the power to speak,
Mm.
because through my spoken words, which is why even now, literally at this time of the year, I'm a countdown to my birthday, that I'm very, very, very sensitive to the words that I'm forming, the way that I'm speaking to myself, and the way I'm speaking to others around me, because I'm literally creating and shaping the energy that's surrounding me. I believe in that the world that you're seeing right now, people spoke this world.
Hmm. Absolutely. Um, and I want to apologize if I didn't cover enough of your career.
No, this is
But
no, no,
just
no, no, no. Dobbs, let me tell you this. I appreciate that you guided the career to the essence of who I am. And those who will watch this who know Christy, they know this is where I live and this is where I speak from. And I saw my ability when God gave me my radio career back, because I was out of radio at one point for like 6 or 7 years, 6 years. And when I got back in that seat, and that's when my success took off is because
Mm-hmm.
I had learned the power of my words and my voice. And I allowed the spirit that is in all to fill my vocal cords. So when I would open the mic, even if I wasn't saying scriptures, like right now, I am inspired and some would say anointed to speak. So someone just through my spoken, the sound of my voice is being liberated.
Mm-hmm.
And so my the essence and success of my radio career and why God still has me now being interviewed by the one, the only job on
Oh my
Intellectually
God!
Petty
Stop it.
is because apparently he still needs me to say something.
Mm.
So this is really the secret to my success. The secret to my success, and I tell people all the time, is the power of affirming. I spoke my life that I'm living into. I spoke my healing. I spoke my restoration. I spoke my mental wellness. I spoke my bouncing back. I spoke my going through grief and loss and all kinds of things that we live through. I continually, in the midst of the chaos that sometimes we create and is created for us, I speak, thereby, therefore I am. So you're really tapping into the truest essence of why I am a consultant because getting to the story is I am here to speak life, to inspire, to live in full expression. And the stories of our life that we're telling to increase our brands, to sell our products and our services and our records is based in the story of your life. I'm done. I'm gonna
Well,
give you the mic back. I'm gonna give you the mic back.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my soul for this
Oh,
conversation. You have truly,
ah,
truly, truly helped me.
mm.
I don't know if there's anything I could possibly do for you, but if there is,
Oh, it's coming. Oh, it's coming. Payback. I'm gonna get. Look, go on.
yeah,
Come on,
whatever,
rain check, rain check,
whatever,
rain check. I got my rain check. I got it.
whatever you need, please just don't hesitate to
Yeah.
ask. I cannot possibly thank you enough for
Thank
this.
you. I appreciate you, and I say this that as my soul has touched your soul, you have done the same for me, and I appreciate that you've given me your platform to share my heart. So thank you as well.
That was the easy part. I had to shut up. That's all I had to do.
Next time though, you need to ship me whatever you drinking so when I'm on here, I can sip with you. Okay.
Actually, I got you. That's not a problem at all.
Okay.
On that note, I'm gonna let you go.
Thank you. All the
Thank
love.
you. You have a phenomenal evening on purpose, and thank you again.
Yes. Thank you.
No
Blessings.
problem.
Much
Have a
love.
good one. Yo, that was much needed for myself. Like I'm just not even gonna lie. It's been a tough week for me. And God gives you what you need, and I think I said that in the last interview, and I cannot even stress that enough now. Anyway, I want to thank Chrissy Taylor. She was an amazing person to talk to and a beautiful spirit. Next week, we got Sam Watson and Jupiter coming up. And y'all make sure y'all stay dope and have a phenomenal evening on purpose. This has been Jobs. This has been another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio, and I'm out of here.